Okay, we're back. This is Series 2, Episode 6. Tonight we're interviewing Militia. But before that, let's get on with some thrash. First up, Steel Mage and Warrior.
At the edge of mortal lane, and no shame held from the murders of those he slain. Be careful, don't try him. He's not afraid to kill you, for he's the warrior.
Next up, the mighty Onslaught. This is their new track, Religious Suicide, from their brand new album, Generation Antichrist, coming into your ears soon.
Jesus fucking Christ! Blinded eyes to see the light and testimonies of hate. Self-destructing paradox lies far beyond your fate. Revelation, death divine, resurrection born. Mass seduction, suicide, mentality is torn. Churches fall across the land, chapels laid to rest. Gospels given underground, faith becomes possessed. Speak around the seven sins, advocate the priest. Shooting red and dignity, romancing with the beast. Sacraments or sacrifice. Anti-cult or anti-Christ. Hanging on the holy cross, they name the priest twice. Religion takes it on the ass, it's Jesus fucking Christ. ass is Jesus fucking Christ!
That was Onslaught. New vocalist, still no compromise. Fucking awesome. And next up, leading us into our interview with Militia, this is Helgrind and Insanity Rules. Okay, welcome back to the UK Thrashers virtual studio. This week, our guests in the studio are Militia. Welcome to the show, guys. Please introduce yourselves, explain what you do in the band, and I suppose you better introduce the missing members while you're at it.
Yeah, okay. So my name's Alfred. I play lead guitar and lead vocals in Militia.
I'm Brody. I'm rhythm guitar, backing vocals in Militia.
The missing members are Joe Lyons, plays drums for us, and then Ryan Cortia, he plays backing vocals and bass guitar as well.
Okay, cool. So whereabouts are you guys from?
Home for three of us, myself, Joe and Ryan. We're from Hertfordshire, and Brody there's from Caterham. So it's a bit of a travel, but
opposite side of London to you guys, really.
Yeah, we make it work. It costs a fair bit as well with rehearsal, and then you have to get the train, don't you?
Yeah.
So I think you said it racked up to about 60 quid in total.
Yeah, 60 quid for the last two, but it's all worth it,
Hertfordshire, that's too posh to mosh, that is, mate.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so back to the beginning of the band. How did you guys all kind of get together? Obviously, you're a bit separated, so What's the story about where the band came from? Did you play in previous bands before, and kind of how long you've been around as a band?
So I'll give my little backstory, because Brody's story is a little bit different as well. Whereas if myself, Ryan, and Joe's are a bit similar. Myself and Joe, we kind of met up in school, and that's how we knew each other. And we had a band going on, and then we can't really put a genre on it. It was a bit all over the place. Kept on going around from name to name. I think Blitz or something like that was one of them, or something, or Jaeger, or whatever. I don't even know what they were. But we started off like that, and then eventually we formed In Distinction. We had a couple other members as well. From that point, different drummer and different guitar player as well. From In Distinction, we did a couple shows. I think it was one or two shows, I can't remember. And then I ended up getting kicked out. So that's when the whole Militia thing started up. I met people. I went on, there's this website, I can't remember what it's called. It's where you find, join my band, that's it. And that's when I found George in another band called Black Vinyl, who I eventually stole him from them. We formed Militia with their old guitar player, Freddie. And then I asked Rob, who was the drummer for In Distinction at the time, to do drums for us. It didn't quite work as well with Rob, so we said to him, look, it's not going to work, and we pulled someone called Louis in. From Louis, we started playing around for a bit, and then Fred left, and then it was just us three for a bit. Oh no, so then George left, then Fred left as well later on. Then we pulled someone called Dave in on bass, and they all went a bit like up and down from there. Anyway, fast forward the story, Ryan starts kind of losing touch with In Distinction, and then we bring him in there because Dave asked him to join in place of him because he left. Dave is much older than us, but he was a fantastic player nonetheless, and he was really, really good at his stuff. I was a little bit gutted when he left, but then he pulled Ryan in, so he kind of solved where are we going to find a new bass player from? It's like finding a needle in a haystack, and I think bass players are harder to find than drummers, but I mean, that argument's yet to be settled. So we got Ryan in. It took him a little bit to leave In Distinction. Then In Distinction fell flat, and we had Jake in at the time, a drummer, and he wasn't quite pulling through. So, but we had Louis on guitars after drums. So it's a little bit of a confusing story. We jumped from instrument to instrument. So Louis left, we kicked him out as well, and then that's when we got Brody in, and then later on we got Joe in. But Brody's side of the story is quite interesting as well, actually.
Yeah, when I started playing guitar, I was more into core and that sort of stuff. And after about a couple years of playing, I started really getting into thrash, early Metallica, Megadeth. And then I started listening to Exodus, and that's what really made me want to go, okay, yeah, I want to do a band with one of my mates. And we had two projects that we want to do. One was called Brain Damage. The other one was called Post-Birth Penetration Suffocation. I don't really have an answer for what that is.
Flows off the tongue, that one.
Yeah, it does. It's absolutely lovely. But they didn't really go anywhere. We had like a couple riffs kicking about each, and then I met Alfred through a mutual friend in, I'd say, late July maybe. And then we started talking, and actually met up, and I'd say we got on quite well, and he started talking about if I wanted this spot in the band. And I'd never been in a proper touring band with original music and all that. So I was really with Dave. Then less than a week later, my first gig ever with them. And the next rehearsal, I was trying to take lead because Alfred was ill. So I had to kind of play not the lead guitar role, but take all of the song cues and that. Only my second rehearsal in. So it was quite a bit hectic, but loved every second of it.
Yeah.
And then, I'd say now where we are now is I'm happier than ever, man.
It's quite a weird story. I mean, if we were to bring the question back a bit, so that's kind of how it formed. We were originally together from 1st of April, 2018. So we've only been around for about just over 2 years, and there's been different changes, but I think it kind of works out for the better. But I mean, that also answers your question as to whether we played in other bands as well.
This sounds like 10 years worth of band changes, but it's actually 18 months.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a wild story. There's a lot of falling outs and arguments going on. There's a lot of like, well, this needs to be done or this needs to be done. Like the reason with Fred decided to leave. He was very unresponsive. When you got a co-worker, say you're a manager, for example, and they're not responding and you need them to come into work. It's like that sort of thing. We'd have rehearsal every week, and he'd go, well, I don't understand why we need rehearsals. We all know what we're doing. But then he would later on say, well, so-and-so doesn't know what they're doing. And it's kind of like, well, you're contradicting yourself a little bit there, because then not everyone knows what they're doing. So it kind of went on to him being like, well, I'm leaving you guys. I've got another band. And then that band fell flat. So I was a little bit like, well, there you go then. And then that's when we got Louis on guitar after that point, I think. No, we had a person called Zach come in, sorry. And then he left, and then that's when we had Louis on guitar. And that's when we started to really take off a little bit more as well.
So for those people that haven't heard you, because obviously I think the only track that's out there properly at the moment is the one on Moshing the Roof On, and a few of the little bits and bobs, teasers and stuff you've got out there. What's the Militia sound? Yeah. Describe what it is that people can expect when they crank up your EP or they come and see you at a gig eventually, if we ever get to gig again.
Well, so to put it all in one sentence, it is raw, intense, thrash and speed metal for your ears. That's kind of the term we've coined for it. It's as raw as it gets, really. I wanted something that was new, or like a breath of fresh air. You take it back. I loved watching all the old live shows from all the early thrash bands and even a new wave of British heavy metal. Listened to all the old demo tapes, and I thought, you know what, this is definitely what the scene's missing. I think there's the thrash scene, as strong and big as it is, it's not like there. It's not like you've got metal, then thrash, and then so on and so forth. It all kind of gets jammed into one. But what I want is to kind of really bring back our roots and help us stand out a little bit more. We are definitely a really, really, really strong and tight community. So I just like people to see where our roots are again. And I think it'd be really cool just to have us back out there again.
Yeah, I've got a copy of the demo, and from the song you submitted to the charity album as well. You've definitely got that old school sound to it. There's a bit of Motorhead there. There's a bit of Venom in there. But with also some kind of early Exodus, and you can hear all those sounds there with a bit of a new twist, which I guess is you don't want it to sound like you recorded it in 1982, but you want to have those influences in there.
Yeah, of course. I think with the demo tape, when you put it on, it's definitely something you need to crank up loud. I've tried putting it on with low volume, it just doesn't work. So when you get it, you have to turn it up. There's no other way about it.
So first couple of listens, I struggled a little bit with your vocals. Because I think I was listening to it too quietly. You were quite low, and then when you get it past the midway selector on the volume knob, suddenly all that starts to balance out a little bit more, and it makes more sense. I was, trying to listen to it while I was working and had it on in the background. I was like, what's going on? The vocals aren't, they didn't quite have the punch that they had on the other single. And then I say you get to the top end of the dial. And then it's like, okay, that kind of makes sense now. It needs to be. It's one of those. One of those tapes
needs to be turned up.
Loud. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, demo is coming out. So it comes out a week today. How did the recording process work? Were you studio bound? Have you all recorded at home, or how did that kind of all that side of things get together in the end?
So only one thing was done in a studio, but it was all of it's DIY. So in my college, I got Joe in to record drums. We had a lot of things going wrong with the actual recording process. When we were recording the drums, we did have like maps. We had it all mapped out. We had all the timing and then all the different. All there waiting for us just to pull it up. But where it transferred from Logic to Pro Tools, it was being a bit funny, and we couldn't get it to sound right or comfortable enough in the headphones for him when we started it up, and we started to really run out of time to get it all recorded. So I was like, right, I stripped everything, and then I just said, look, you're going to play it, and you're going to have to do it from muscle memory. So all the drums, everything from there, it's done without a click, which is, it's bad, but it's a demo tape. It gets across what we're about as well. But I think he's done an outstanding job with the drums. So to do that all from memory and without a click as well, I think he did really, really well. From that point onwards, it was a waiting game pretty much. We did that back in early March, I'm going to say.
Early mid-March.
Is when we did that. And it wasn't until early May, late April, early May, to get everything done. So we recorded drums, then guitars, and then we recorded. So the way we did the guitars is I planned originally to do with the mic and then up against my amp, but I just couldn't get it to work or have like a decent sound. So we DI'd all the guitars, and then I sent that to Brody, who then put on impulses and their interface as well. I'm not too sure where the impulse came from though.
I try to come up with a decent tone. I don't have any mics, so I've got a dual rec, and I could have likely used that for the tones, but I don't have any mics for it, to get any quality sound. So what we ended up coming up with was just using free plugins, and I found this old form with impulse response, and it was just called a modded Marshall impulse. And I thought, okay, you've got my interest, I'll give it a go. And after a bit of tweaking with the amp and using that impulse on the cab, it sounded phenomenal. $6,000 worth of gear, but it's all free plugins that we just found on forums, and I couldn't be more proud of the sound that we came up with on that.
I think it sounds really, really good. It definitely does pack a punch. So after that, it was a lot of transferring the guitar tracks, like maybe do this to it or something, or so on and so forth. And then I tweaked it all to the drums, and then it was a matter of bouncing back and forth with the guitars with the drums to see, does this sound okay? It wasn't until we got the bass guitar in. From that point onwards, it's just a matter of, let's what fits with what, and going from there. It took pretty much up until June to get all that done, as well as vocals. I don't have a vocal booth. I just sat in a bathroom. Well, I didn't stand, I stood up in a bathroom, a pitch black bathroom as well, because if you turn the light on, the fan comes on. So I'm sat there in a pitch black bathroom trying to record vocals. Is this the mic here or is this the shower head, And that's how it went from there. And I think I got an all right sound with it all. And then all the mixing as well was just done. It's all done by myself. Then we sent it off. It was a couple bounce back and forwards, just tweaking a bit of the mixes between myself and my colleague from Farm Factory Studios, Dave, who was mastering it for us. So he mastered it, and he'd take a listen and he'd go, well, maybe try this. So I'd take it back, and then so we've probably got a good 100 or so bounces of that demo tape just going back and forward. It's not like we all sat in a room and clicked record and that was that. So it did take a lot of work and a lot of time. But I think with the current situation, we did all right.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a lot of technical skills, so that obviously is a blessing in these times, is that, if you didn't have that technical knowledge, you'd struggle to be DIY if you're trying to learn how to record yourself or whatever. But it sounds like you've got that as a bit of a background anyway.
I was a little bit, I did have that, but I also didn't have that. I was very much a learning curve as well, because I'd never really recorded and mixed a metal track before, other than Panzer Chargers, which is what we gave you for moshing the roof on. That was a very quick, I think this is what I'm doing, sort of thing. But I'd only been mixing since September, so for only a good couple months of actual work being done, I think we did all right. It just took a lot of brain power from all of us going, maybe try this, try that. It's very hard to mix when you're all in different locations, and sometimes you're not on your phone, so you can't listen to it and get back to me. So it's just a matter of right, I haven't got time at the moment, got to pack this down, got to go to work. And that's that's part of the reason why it took so.
Yeah, but I guess from the back of that, you've learned a lot. So, with that, going forward, would you consider working the same way again, or would it be quite nice to just turn up at a studio for a week and get it done in a lot more of an organised and constructive fashion?
Well, we were actually discussing this last night, weren't we, Brody?
Yeah.
With regards to how we would do it. We kind of, when we argue things in the band, it's more one of us has to, or a couple of us have to take on the other side just to really battle it out and get to what we want, even if it is the opposite thing that we're fighting against is what we want. Brody suggested, maybe the DIY thing is what we're about. That adds to the rawness. And then I thought, well, I think because he mentioned that with the drums as well, we need to go in the studio. So it's like, well, what's the point in going in a studio and recording drums if you're going to kind of dumb it down a little bit with DIY? Granted, most it's incredible. Everyone's got, some people got a home studio with all the equipment of a regular studio. The only difference is you're paying someone else to help you mix it, whereas if you're doing it all yourself. So I was just like, well, I think it's best that we go in a studio and we stay in a studio and we maybe pick and choose which studios are best. I was speaking to Aaron, the frontman from Shrapnel. He was talking to me about the studios that they used for their recent album Palace. I think it's Ritual Sound Studios. So I listened to that and I thought, well, everything sounds incredible. And then he mentioned some other, I can't remember the other guy's name, but he was like, well, this guy right here is the guitar god of recording. So I was like, right, I'll go check out that album. I think it was The Decade of Decimation was the one that he recorded with the guitars. And I thought, the guitars sound really, really good. So I thought, well, we could go to Ritual Sound and do drums, bass and vocals and all that there. And we can track the guitars elsewhere. Whether that's a doable thing or, smart or dumb thing, I don't know. We're still in the thinking stages. But I personally would much rather go into a studio. I'm not really too sure what answer we came to, though.
I think we ended up sort of saying, well, we kind of need to feel out what's best, because we've done the DIY route now. It might be a better idea to have some time in the studio, see how we all feel about that.
Yeah.
Just experiment a bit, see what we can come up with, see what we're happy with.
I guess it's an expense thing as well. The benefit of DIY is that it might take more time, but it's done on your own money. You're not paying for studio time. You're not paying for engineers and all that sort of stuff. So at the end of the day, you don't make a lot of money from playing gigs and selling demo tapes. So someone's got to fund it somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's the main creative in the band? Are you is it joint songwriting? Are you doing your own instruments, or how's it? Who kind of comes up with the creative ideas and lyrics and all that sort of good stuff?
Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. All the songs on the tape. Alfred's the main composer. He wrote all these songs just, I think, before I joined the band. Sacrifice was the first song I'd heard by them, and it was at the first show they played at. So he was the main songwriter before that, and I think since the band's kind of taken more shape with all four of us at the moment, we all kind of have a hand in the songwriting. We all put riffs forward, we all put parts and ideas, so it's more well-rounded, I guess. It's more of our image now. That's what I'd say. We all have a hand in it now.
The majority of the current set lists are definitely, so the majority of it is my writing, and that's stuff that I've written. All the drum parts are I can envision it going like this, give or take. When the new members, so when Joe and Ryan came in, Ryan take on the bass guitar, just said, look, this is the guitar riff, maybe, and do something with that. He's an incredible bass player. I don't understand how he does it, but he really does know what he needs to do. So I was like, right, you can do that. With drums, I would say to Joe, try this. This is what happened. Well, this is what we were doing originally, that I came up with the previous drum, and he'd add his own little touch to it. So from that point onwards, since we've had Joe and Ryan in, all the new writings, we've got songs such as Burn Die, for example, which from what I understood is still the kind of the working title, but we've rolled with it for the time being. You've got one called Death by 1,000 Shots and stuff like that. And those sort of songs, those are all the new ones. That's where it's had everyone's kind of input in it. Sometimes we're still changing it. We go to it and go, maybe that didn't work. We could do this and that to it. So it's all a work in progress. But overall, I would say everyone has an equal contribution to everything.
Obviously, you're still creating, and you've been creating during lockdown. Have you been doing that? Have you all been sat alone and then getting together, or you've been doing Zoom rehearsals, or how have you been kind of keeping that dynamic going?
Well, we haven't, pretty much, to put it simply. So everyone's practicing their own. We have, so me and Brody, we punch in riffs to each other and go, what do you think of this? Would this work? Ryan still plays bass all the time. The songs, once they're very hard to get a hold of at first. in terms of being able to play them. But once we had them, we've got it. Everyone's doing their own in practice. We're waiting until we can get back in a proper room, because the problem with Zoom calls or Discord or wherever, there's always some sort of delay, or there's some sort of lag, and not all of us have got microphones and stuff like that where we can just kind of plug in and play. With drums, for example, you'd need a good couple microphones to get a decent quality sound across. And I think Joe's only got one, I think. So it would be a little bit hard to kind of just mix it all accordingly, because you'll have to go, right, someone turn up something. Or if you turn up the drums, then maybe the cymbals would be too much with the one mic. And so we've not really been, we've not thought, oh yeah, that's a good idea, let's go for it. We just thought, right, practice on our own, come back together, because it might be that we get new ideas from it all as well when we're back together. So we've kind of left that sheet blank.
And are you hoping that back together sooner rather than later, I guess, with some of the recent changes? Are you hoping that, at least you can start rehearsing again if you can't start gigging again?
I'm definitely hoping for that, because through lockdown we're not able to really write together, but I think individually we're taking riffs and doing like our own interpretation. Like I've been going to Alfred like, hey, I rewrote, say, Burned Eye. I've rewritten this kind of, what do we think of this compared to how to? And I think it's just waiting for rehearsals so we can see how those sound in a room and see how we all connect with it. Because we haven't really been able to write together, but we can at least do our own interpretations of things. And then
exactly. I guess what sounds good on your own in your room, when you actually then put all the bass and the drums and everything else, and it doesn't quite work exactly, but it doesn't work the way you think it does in your head.
Exactly. It's just very up and down road.
You managed to play a few gigs before lockdown, but live shows have been obviously massively affected. What's the plan for the rest of the year? Are you hoping to kind of jump onto some tail end gigs if it all comes back online?
Obviously, we've got to be careful. I've invested, and so where I'm doing vocals, usually I just use the in-house mic. And we've got my own mic and that sort of stuff now, and we're just taking every step as it comes. We're at a point where, right, we better not get our hopes up just in case. But as far as we're concerned, or we're aware, so we've still got the tour with Helgrind and Earthbound. That's still going on. All the dates have just been postponed. From what I understand, I might be wrong here, we've got a date in Ipswich in September time. So that was meant to happen back in late March, 21st of March, I think that was meant to happen. So that's been pushed back. And then we've got our Europe side of the tour as well, which will be, so that's Germany and Austria. I believe that's late October to early November sort of time. I think it was 26th of October to the 2nd of November, from what I remember. So we're hoping for that, and then we've got the rest of the tour, which is down in London. So we're hoping to really just like steamroll a whole thing. Now we've got the demo tape out. We've got the EPK on the roll. We've got everything kind of tying together. Now we're in lockdown. We've got more time to work and develop on things. So now is the kind of the gluing of the things. And once everything's back and ready to go, we throw it at people pretty much. So we're hoping to get back on the road as soon as possible. We miss it. It's the only thing that's keeping us going. That's our livelihood. I've got backup plans in terms of, I could get work doing so and so, but I'm not relying on it. Not all of us have got backup plans, which is, you could say it's silly, or we're being really ballsy with it all. So we're hoping.
You mentioned some of the gigs and some of the lineups you got on there. What's your local scene like? I guess you're either side of London, so you've got the benefits of being fairly close to London. But what about a little bit close to home? What kind of other bands you got? What venues, or do you have to escape from your hometown to get something?
For me, down in Caterham, it's there aren't really any music venues in Caterham. I remember 2-3 years ago, me and a few mates thought, let's start a band, and we got like a song together, and we're like, okay, where can we play this? And there was a pub at the end of the road, and that was it really. There's not really a music scene, and there's also definitely not a thrash or a metal scene. So for me, it's always been, head up into London, see what comes around. And when I was starting those earlier bands I mentioned with my mate, we thought, are we like, is there anyone trying thrash in the UK? We were really blind. We couldn't find, you Google UK thrash bands, and at the time we couldn't find anything. And when I met Alfred, and he was like, I'm in these 2 bands, and we do like thrash, and I was like, holy shit, there's a fucking thrash scene. And then after Sheffield, when you messaged us and we saw how many thrash bands are around, it was like, holy fuck, thank God I'm not alone in wanting to do some thrash around in the UK.
And you, Alfred?
Yeah, I mean, for Hertfordshire's sort of place, you know, as you said, it's too posh for mosh, but you'd be surprised. There's all sorts of venues around, whether they're thrash or metal venues, you know, that's someone else's take on it. You know, with the one place that we've kind of played a fair bit was the Horn in St Albans. It's a good venue, it's a good start-up. That's where we started playing shows, and it's a good place to kind of get the feel for everything. Otherwise, you'd rock up to an actual thrash or like a metal venue and go, what do I do? How do I get the crowd hyped? So it was a very, it's a good area to learn in, pretty much. We played the Hertford Corn Exchange. That was our first gig. We played it as much as we could. You know, at the time I think I was 15, so we were all pretty young. You know, I'm still, for everything we've done, I think we've done well. I think you're the oldest, aren't you, Brody?
Yeah.
Joe and Ryan turning 18, and me, I'm 17 now, turned recently. So there's a big struggle. That's the only thing. A lot of Hertfordshire venues are like, no, unless you're 18, you're not getting in.
Sure.
So, it was kind of bouncing between these couple venues. There's quite a few thrashers. When walking around Welwyn Garden City, for example, you see them all around. At my college as well, there's always this, the couple groups that you see. So it's alive and well, but I don't think it's as strong as other areas. I think if you ventured into London, that's where you'll find it. But on the outer skirts where we're it's okay. Not the strongest, but not the weakest.
You kind of touched on it then that, you hadn't realised what a big scene, or at least you hadn't, Brody, what a big scene there was in the UK. At the moment, there seems to be a real strong underground scene, lots of new bands, lots of kind of bands at kind of your age up to kind of mid-20s, I guess. There's a big range of bands all kind of doing the same sort of thing, at least in their own style. What are the bands you're listening to at the moment?
For me, I've been listening to Steel Mage's new EP. I think that they've really got something going there, that old school heavy metal infused thrash. I really like their stuff. And Riptide, those two bands I really, really dig.
Steel Minge.
Yeah, Steel Minge. I've got a Steel Minge t-shirt in the cupboard.
What about you, Alfred?
I mean, with me, I think definitely Hell Affected. I was listening to those guys. I was chatting to Liam before they got the album out, and I think it's really, really cool actually. When I used to do around earlier in the mornings at the beginning of lockdown, that's what I listened to. I'd get up and go and I'd wake up to some black and thrash metal, those sort of things. And then so you've got Helgrind as well. So Helgrind have been around for ages, 20 years I think it was. 2000 is when they were formed. But when we've been on tour with them, I do have a good couple of favourite songs. I don't think it's out yet because the original recording of it went scuffed, so they're re-recording it and releasing it or something like that, from what I understand. And that's Dead Shall Rise. It's definitely one of my favourite songs by them. But other than that, I think everyone in the underground scene, I always give everyone a little bit of a listen, whether I actually like them in the end or not. But it's always good to kind of check it out and see what's what. Is this a potential gig or?
I guess that's always a risk, isn't it? If you over listen to too much stuff, it starts influencing you too much, and suddenly you're dropping in a Riptide riff in the middle of a track, or Are you conscious of that? Do you worry that? Do you all check each other? It's like, fuck off, that's Exodus. That came from Fabulous Disaster.
I get that a lot. I always get told, Brody, fuck off, that's just an Exodus riff, and I'm like, God fucking damn it.
Yeah, I think. That's always happened. There's always, you go, I've got a proper good riff here. You guys check this out, and they, come back to me and go, you Dave Mustaine, or Ping or something like that. And it's like, what, I don't hear it, and then they go, listen to this song. So you're like, you kidding me, man? Like, what's going on?
Give Gary Holt his fucking riff back, you robbing bastard.
With regards to finding, influencers finding their way into the tracks, it always happens. So with me, you'll hear in the earlier I was a real, proper big fan. I worshipped that sort of stuff. And I thought it was really, really cool. I thought it was insane. It was just, I listened to it and I thought, someone on earth wrote this. I thought, is the devil himself, did he meet Dave at the crossroads or something like that? Or, is The Conjuring really, about what Dave did to, that sort of thing. So I thought it was really, really cool. So I thought this is definitely something that I want to do. That's why I kind of took off with Militia. Not obviously copying Megadeth. I found influences in other music as well. But if you do listen, I was just playing back to back both the first two albums, Killing Is My Business and Peace Sells. So it definitely, you will hear that in there, and play, songs like Sacrifice. It's a Peace Sells sort of vibe, but not so much. There's only a hint with like one or two riffs there maybe. And Dead Man's Land is definitely, if I had to pin it to an album, would be Killing Is My Business. But once again, you get a hint of it. It's Militia, but you can see where our influence is. We're not copying anyone. We've not stolen any riffs. I think it's good to have your influences there, because then people can relate to your music a bit more and a bit easily as well.
You guys have been pretty active on social media, especially during lockdown and stuff, and you've been doing you've started your riff offs and all that sort of stuff. That's riff offs, easy. Is social media pretty important to get yourselves known as a band? Do you find social media, really important? Have you managed to grow yourself a bit of I use the word fan in the loosest possible term, but have you managed to build yourself up a bit of following using the social media?
I'll take this first bit, because I'll tell you about my side of things from when the band started off, and then because when Brody joined in, that's when it really, that's when we took a kick up the bum to really get started, and we shut off. So with earlier on stuff, it was kind of, how do we get 100 followers? You set yourself that goal and you go, well, that's quite a bit. But it was, it's actually quite easy when you start playing these first couple of shows. And we discovered hashtags. We thought, oh yeah, this is amazing. You put a couple hashtags down at the bottom there, everyone sees your post, you get likes everywhere. So hashtags were our main thing. It was kind of like, well, we've got to use the right ones. So we used any ones. We did hashtag Megadeth, hashtag Slayer, hashtag, we looked what other people did and we copied that. Until I looked up on Google and I was like, best hashtags for thrash metal. And then it gives you a massive list of the number one hashtags to use. So we use that, and we still use that as well. That's how we reach some people who follow hashtags. So it was very slow, if I was to say it. We kind of got a rise. I think we hit 400 followers in give or take about a month. So it started off really, really well, and then it kind of dove down a little bit, lost a couple followers, simmered for a bit. This is when we started doing lineup changes and, deciding who are we really, who's in the band, what's going on. And then our first show, which was I think it was in August, might have been the 31st of August as well, I can't remember. But that was for the musical mystery tour. In the Hartford Corn Exchange. So it by all means was not a thrash metal event. This was not like, we were the heaviest band there by far, by a real long stretch. But the crowd loved us. Not to sound too big-headed, but they were always, they shouted out, getting back on stage. We loved that sort of thing. Despite the amount of mistakes that we went through. So we thought, yeah, that's good. We want that rush again. We were so nervous going on stage that, this is the first time we're playing any of this material live. And then from that point onwards, social media shot back up, and then it kind of stayed steady a bit. And then that's when that's when Brody cued in and then came in from that point.
Yeah, I think once I joined, that was sort of when we thought, okay, we need to grow because we're about to go on tour. I've just joined this first real band and we're going on tour, and I'm like, holy shit, okay, well, we need to get the name out, we need to do this. So that's when we start, interacting with people, going on to other bands and just being like, giving them a listen and hoping they would, give us the same, and building up our following that way. I think, I would say in the 2 or 3 months from after I joined, I think we hit 1,000 followers, maybe a bit less than that. After the lineup kind of solidified a little bit more with Ryan and I in. So that was just before Joe, and then the last 6 7 months with Joe in the band, I'd say is when our social media's really kept a steady pace. Like, we've not dropped off. We've just we either plateau or we're going up, and we're never really going down. And I think doing the video things like Riff Off Fridays and that, we're seeing a lot better of a response. I think people who have been following the band for 2 years are just psyched to see, okay, we're finally getting some music out. We get to hear what these guys sound like, rather than seeing like pictures of us play shows. They're actually getting to hear what the experience might be like,
I mean, with the other thing, I just thought I'd note this because that's what I thought when Brody was saying that. Without social media, we wouldn't be on tour right now. I think it was our best way of having our music out there without actually having it out there. We were, from what I understand, we were chosen out of other bands who did have music out. We were the only band who didn't. We thought, why is that? What's going on? We were able to pull a crowd despite having no music out, and that was great. Whether we can still after, I'm not too sure. Time will tell, because the social media, as I said, as Brody said, plateaued for a bit, and we've kind of solidified our fan base a bit more. It's not kind of jelly, because when you're going up, it's kind of like people are dipping the toes in the water. It's like, ooh, what's going on here? Are these okay or not? And where that's plateauing, it's people that are kind of like, I can kind of dig this, that sort of thing. So I think just to finish it off there, that was just a matter of, unless we had that, then we wouldn't be on tour. I was just going to say, I mean, once again, without social media, we wouldn't be doing this interview right now, or we wouldn't have gotten that show with the disposable and I can't even say their name now. Was it Ifreen? Ifreen. That's it. There you go. I couldn't even say that live. I was like, is it Ifreen or?
You had to ask them.
Yeah, I did. I did ask them. We were up on stage and I was like, is it Ifreen? But they said close enough. Without them, we wouldn't have reached you, and then we wouldn't have reached an even further or a bigger fan base. So I think it's incredible what it can do. It really is.
Okay, so while we're talking about the kind of social side, obviously your I guess you're calling it demo tape, I guess, but it will be digital, is available next week. Where can people get hold of that?
We've got it up on, we've been using DistroKid, so that'll be on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, Spotify, even Napster. If Lars Ulrich wants to come after us, he can. We just sorted out getting it up on a Bandcamp, and we thought, well, it's a week today, as of when we're doing this, that comes out. If you pre-order it on Bandcamp, you get lives early. Thought we'd give people one of the tracks that we really enjoy, and we've had a few people say, yeah, that's a fucking banger. And we thought we'd let them spin that for a week, and then that will build up the hype for the other two tracks.
And obviously I've seen you pimping your merchandise as well. What about getting in touch for some fancy Militia threads?
So, do you want me to say this one?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So for a while, it was more of the matter of you message us and we'll sort it out from there. You just let us know where you're from, where your address, postcode, all of this, and we'll sort everything out. So now we've got a little bit more of a solidified sort of thing. So we've got our own private website, our own domain and everything, the shop store. It's all being sorted out now as we speak. So we'll announce when that's ready. But for now, we've got once again Bandcamp. That's where we're going to be selling our merch. So I believe, cool. So if anyone who's listening, then in the show notes even, you'll be able to pick up a T-shirt for £12. Will be so that's a Militia logo T-shirt in either black or white. And then we're doing patches soon as well. When we get those, we'll be doing them. Give or take, or how much did we say, Brody?
£3 a piece, or if you buy a T-shirt, first few patches will be given away with T-shirts, I think.
Yeah, we'll give away the first few sales. We give away patches for free, and then from then it will be we can do a bundle deal. From that, but we're yet to discuss that. So, and then any other sort of merch, we're still kind of thinking about what would do best. So if people head over to our social media, for example, Instagram is where we hold most of our polls. On Facebook, it doesn't really work for some reason. So if you go to @official.militia, you can potentially see one of the polls as to what merch we want to put up. Whether that's snapbacks or it's hoodies jackets, or if it's caps as well. I forget what they're called now. Beanies. There you go. Things like that. Without merch, we probably couldn't go on for very long. Our own banks would suffer. We wouldn't be able to afford to live as well as play. Which is obviously not ideal. So with the thing with buying merch, you're not only you're getting some merch out of it as well. You're getting you're getting a t-shirt or whatever you're buying, but you also help pay for tour, more merch, food and accommodation for when we're on tour, and all these sort of other things as well. Even pays for advertisement that we can get more fans with. The money that we receive, that at the moment we're not putting into our own pockets at all. It's all just funneling straight back into the band. It's all for the band. So that's how we're. That's where money goes. It helps supporting the band and all the adventures that we go on, and all the shows that all the places we go to come and see you all to play.
Sure, and I think it's pretty well known that Spotify streams don't pay the bills. You've got to do a couple of million Spotify streams to get a tenner. So people buying those t-shirts and patches is a big deal these days for you guys. Right, finally, any other shout outs, any plugs, anyone you want to kind of talk about, or anything else you want to add to the interview, really?
I think we want to shout out Intelligent Performance. It's a computing company, but they sponsored us, and they gave us a bit of funding to help us out with the tour and giving us a hand with promotions and stuff. They're also helping fund our website and design all of that. So that's a really big help, and we really appreciate their help with that. Yeah,
I think the other shout out that we have to give as well, definitely, although we're not on tour right now, is the guys at Helgrind as well. For picking us up and getting us on the road with them. It's a first touring experience and not any music out. Just got to thank them a lot to trust us. So it's Paula, Simon, Chris, and Andy from Helgrind, I've got to say. Any other shout outs would just be to everyone else who's followed us along the 2-year path before we released anything. It's a long journey. We're sorry about the way. Or wish we could just chuck and get you as we could, but perfectionism is a bitch. Is what I'm going to say.
Brilliant, guys! Thanks for spending some time talking to us. Good luck with the demo, and I'll hopefully catch you live very soon.
Cheers, man.
Cool. Thank you very much for having us.
It's been a pleasure.
Get
was Sacrifice from Militia. Their new EP came out yesterday, so get onto Bandcamp and download that. Okay, next band up are Cruel Bomb. They come from Pennsylvania, USA. This is from their EP Trinity Terror and Fight or Flight. And that's it, another hour's episode done. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Militia for spending time in the studio with us. Next week we're interviewing UK Black and Speed Thrashers Devastator. It's the same day as their album is released. So yeah, thanks for joining us. See you next week.